you immediately, if you're not careful, can sign your life away, not because you're stupid, but because you just don't simply know what you're doing.
After decades of shared fame and behind-the-scenes rumors, CeCe DeVille is finally pulling back the curtain on Poison's most explosive moments. At 62, he has decided to expose the truth about his bandmate, Bret Michaels. Through his revelations, hidden tensions that were kept secret for years are now coming to light. Join us as we find out what really happened between these two legendary bandmates. Back in 1983, in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, a rock band was born. At first, they went by the name Paris, with 4 young dreamers coming together to chase a future in music. Leading the band was the energetic and charismatic Bret Michaels, alongside bassist Bobby Dahl, the energetic drummer Ricky Rocket, and their highly skilled lead guitarist Matt Smith. What started as just another local band was about to grow into something much bigger than any of them could have imagined. Bret Michaels first started by performing in a small basement band called Laser, but things really began to move in 1979 when he joined forces with his friend Ricky Rocket. Together, they started a band called the Spectres. Not long after, they were joined by Matt Smith and Bobby Dahl, and this new group decided on the name Paris. Their early days were spent playing covers of popular rock songs in small clubs and neighborhood bars. Back then, it was all about getting their name out there, even if it meant performing night after night for small audiences. According to their first manager, Vicky Hamilton, the band at this time had a sound that revolved heavily around Matt Smith's guitar skills. Smith, without question, was the most musically experienced member of the group, handling most of the musical direction. Meanwhile, Michaels and Rocket poured their energy into building the band's visual style and stage presence. They wanted to stand out, not just sound good. Their shows were loud, bold, and filled with personality, which helped them gain a loyal following in Pennsylvania. However, they soon realized that staying in Pennsylvania would only take them so far. The local scene was limited, and they hungered for something greater. In early 1984, feeling restless and eager for new opportunities, the band decided to change their name from Paris to Poison. With a new name and a new attitude, they packed their dreams and moved across the country to Los Angeles, hoping to make their mark in the wild and exciting world of the Sunset Strip. Life in Los Angeles was a complete shock to their systems. They ended up sharing a tiny apartment on Orange Street in Hollywood. Money was tight, but they made it work. Local fans, especially young women, would often bring them groceries or help clean up their cramped living space, just for the chance to hang out with the band. They were far from famous, but they were becoming known in the underground scene. Their new home was nothing like the familiar streets of Pennsylvania. Right outside their apartment, they witnessed street fights and dangerous encounters that were far removed from their small-town upbringing. One particular moment stuck with them: a violent scene involving a pimp and a woman right outside their window. When the band tried to step in, the pimp pulled a large knife on them, teaching them a harsh lesson about the streets. These early struggles only made them tougher and more determined to succeed. With Vicky Hamilton by their side, they started to secure better gigs, including a regular spot at the iconic Troubadour Club. This was a huge step forward, giving them the chance to build a steady audience and fine-tune their stage performance. Even though they recorded demo tracks for Atlantic Records, the label decided to pass on them, leaving the band disappointed, but far from defeated. As they pushed forward, trouble struck. Matt Smith, who had been such a crucial part of their sound, began feeling the weight of becoming a father and the uncertain future of the band. Unsure if the dream was worth the risk, Smith made the tough decision to leave Poison and return home to Pennsylvania. Losing their lead guitarist was a major blow, and for a moment, their future seemed shaky. But Poison wasn't ready to give up. In order to find a replacement for Smith, they auditioned many guitarists in Los Angeles. The competition came down to 2 final choices: Slash, who was already making waves in the local scene, and DeVille, a flashy guitarist from Brooklyn, New York. DeVille had been playing guitar since he was just 5 years old, inspired by rock legends like Led Zeppelin, Van Halen, and Kiss. He had studied music theory at New York University, but left before finishing to chase his dream on the West Coast. During the audition, DeVille boldly showcased his own ideas and brought his own song to the table, "Talk Dirty to Me," instead of focusing on Poison's setlist. His confidence rubbed Bret Michaels and Bobby Doll the wrong way, as they weren't fans of his attitude. Despite their personal doubts, DeVille's raw talent and determination were impossible to ignore. In the end, the band followed their instincts and chose DeVille over Slash, believing his skills matched the band's evolving vision. With their new lineup complete, Poison was ready to take the next big step. Poison's rise to fame wasn't an easy one. At a time when many rock bands were signing big contracts worth hundreds of thousands of dollars with major record labels, Poison struggled to even get noticed. Eventually, in 1986, they found a lifeline. Steve Ricardo signed them with a smaller label called Enigma Records, and the deal was modest, around $30,000. It was nowhere near the deals other bands were landing, but for Poison, it was a start. Their debut album, Look What the Cat Dragged In, came out on May 23rd, 1986. The band believed in their music so much that they even chipped in some of their own money to help cover the recording costs. At first, the album wasn't expected to do much. They had planned to release just one single, Cry Tough, and hopes weren't very high. However, things began to change in a way nobody expected. It was Bret Michaels, their energetic frontman, who pushed the band to create a video for their song, Talk Dirty to Me. That decision turned out to be a game changer. The moment the video hit the screens, it caught fire. Fans couldn't get enough. Suddenly, the album started selling like crazy. Before long, it went platinum and became the biggest success Enigma Records had ever seen. With MTV playing their videos non-stop, Poison's popularity skyrocketed. They found themselves touring alongside other glam rock giants like Rat, Cinderella, and Quiet Riot. They even scored a coveted spot at the massive Texas Jam Festival in Dallas. By March of that same year, Poison was big enough to headline Madison Square Garden, a dream for any rock band. But not everything was perfect behind the scenes. Right before stepping onto that legendary stage, Michaels took his insulin shot as he was a diabetic. But in the rush and nerves of the night, he forgot to eat. Just a few songs into their set, Michaels collapsed on stage due to insulin shock. Rumors swirled immediately, with people speculating that hard substances were the cause. To clear the air, Michaels stepped forward and revealed to the public that he was living with diabetes, hoping to set the record straight once and for all. Later in 1987, Poison recorded a lively cover of Kiss's anthem, Rock and Roll All Night, for the movie Less Than Zero. Meanwhile, Michaels' personal life was taking a hit. His relationship with Tracy Lewis, who had been with him before the fame, fell apart. She felt that success had changed him, while Michaels believed it was her who had been unfaithful. Lewis, now going by Lewis Crosby, told a different story, claiming it was Michaels who had strayed. Heartbroken and caught in the storm of fame and personal loss, Michaels turned his pain into music. He poured his emotions into writing Every Rose Has Its Thorn, using the image of the rose to represent his success, and the thorn as a symbol of the heartbreak he felt. When the song was released in December 1988, it resonated deeply with listeners, becoming an anthem of love and loss that defined the late 1980s. Meanwhile, Poison wasn't slowing down. By the time their second album, Open Up and Say, Ah, dropped on May 21, 1988, they were unstoppable. The album shot to number 2 on the charts and produced some of their biggest hits. Every Rose Has Its Thorn reached number 1, while songs like Nothing But a Good Time, Fallen Angel, and a rock cover of Your Mama Don't Dance kept their momentum strong. Unfortunately, the album's original cover caused quite a stir though. It featured a demonic woman with an outrageously long tongue, which many found offensive. To avoid backlash, they later released a censored version that only showed the woman's eyes. In 1989, they released their first video collection, Sight for Sore Ears, gathering all their popular music videos from their first 2 albums, giving fans even more to enjoy. Despite their growing success, trouble followed the band like a shadow. Michaels, known for his wild lifestyle, often found himself in legal trouble due to fights in cities like Atlanta, Los Angeles, and Tallahassee. The problems didn't stop there. A high-profile music executive, Bryn Bridenthal from Geffen Records, sued Poison for $1.1 million after they soaked her with drinks and a bucket of ice at an industry party. On top of that, Poison's former management company, Sanctuary Music, hit them with a massive $45.5 million lawsuit over alleged contract breaches. Poison didn't back down and countersued, accusing the company of mishandling their funds. Meanwhile, the Swedish band Easy Action claimed that Poison had copied the chorus of their song for Poison's hit, I Want Action. The dispute ended in a financial settlement, though the details were kept quiet. As if lawsuits weren't enough, tensions inside the band were growing worse. Bret Michaels and guitarist DeVille were both struggling with substance use, which pushed their friendship to the breaking point during their 1990-1991 Flesh and Blood World Tour. The situation reached a boiling point when DeVille's wild antics at the 1991 MTV Video Music Awards embarrassed the band publicly. The story of Bret Michaels and DeVille is like a roller coaster that never stops spinning. For years, their friendship and bandmate bond in Poison went through wild highs and crushing lows, but nothing really compared to the chaos that unfolded on one unforgettable night at the 1991 MTV Video Music Awards. It became one of the most talked about moments in rock history, and even now, it feels just as wild as it did back then. Bret Michaels looks back at that night like it was yesterday. The band was set to perform live, and the energy backstage was completely over the top. The atmosphere was electric, and so was the partying. DeVille, always the wild spirit, had been enjoying himself a bit too much before stepping on stage. As the lights went up and the music kicked in, things started to go sideways fast. They were supposed to be playing Unskinny Bop, a song every Poison fan knew by heart. But right after the opening, Bret suddenly heard the unmistakable riff of Talk Dirty to Me. His mind raced as he realized what was happening. Live on national television, they had started playing the wrong song, and there was no turning back. To make things worse, DeVille accidentally yanked his guitar cable out in the middle of the performance, leaving him without sound for some time while the rest of the band powered through, trying to keep the show alive. Somehow, they made it to the end of the song, but the real explosion came backstage. Tempers flared instantly, and the tension that had been building up for months finally blew apart. Without wasting a second, Bret and DeVille were locked in a full-blown fight, fists flying, rolling around on the floor. It all happened right under the eyes of Cindy Crawford and Arsenio Hall, who were trying to squeeze past them to present the next act. It was complete chaos, noses bloodied, teeth lost, and their friendship hanging by a thread. That night marked the end of an era for Poison. DeVille was fired from the band, and Poison brought in guitarist Richie Kotzen to take his place. With Kotzen on board, the band took a sharp turn from their usual party rock style. Their fourth album, Native Tongue, released in early 1993, had a whole new feel. The songs were more serious, with a strong blues rock vibe, stepping away from the glam metal sound that had made them famous. Even though the original lineup was broken, Poison continued exploring new directions and keeping the music alive. Meanwhile, DeVille wasn't ready to fade away. He jumped straight into a new project called Needle Park, teaming up with well-known musicians like Spike from the Choir Boys, bassist Tommy Henriksen, and drummer James Kodak, who would later play with the Scorpions. They even recorded a track called Hey Good Lookin' for the soundtrack of the movie Son-in-Law, starring Pauly Shore. But DeVille's adventures didn't stop there. He later formed another band called Samantha 7. Originally, they wanted to name themselves the Stepmothers, but a legal battle forced them to switch names. Samantha 7 went on to release a self-titled album in 2000 and toured across the United States and the United Kingdom, keeping DeVille in the spotlight. Through all of this, Bret Michaels couldn't shake the bond he shared with DeVille. Despite their explosive fights, Bret always saw him as more than just a bandmate. He admitted that most of the time, they got along just fine, But when things turned bad, they turned very bad. Their falling out had been painful, but the friendship never truly ended. Years later, life brought them back together, even as DeVille struggled with addiction and personal battles. Many people had turned their backs on him, but Bret refused to be one of them. Knowing his old friend was in trouble, Bret showed up at DeVille's house in the Hollywood Hills, deciding that he wasn't going to let him fall any further. Bret chose to stand by him no matter what, promising to help him through it all, with or without the band. Their story, filled with fights, failures, and forgiveness, is proof that even the wildest storms can pass. Through the chaos of fame and the shadows of personal demons, they managed to hold on to a friendship that survived everything the rock and roll life could throw at it. Their album, Native Tongue, carried the weight of high expectations, with catchy singles like Stand, as well as Until You Suffer Some, Fire and Ice, and Body Talk. The record did manage to earn positive reactions from critics. It even reached gold status, which was no small feat, but the music world was changing fast. Grunge had exploded onto the scene, grabbing the attention of fans, and as a result, this album didn't quite match the commercial success of Poison's first 3 records. Still, the band hit the road, touring hard to promote the album. Behind the scenes, though, things were not as smooth as they seemed. Tensions were growing between guitarist Richie Kotzen and the rest of the band. The situation took a dramatic turn when it came to light that Kotzen had gotten romantically involved with Deanna Eve, who at the time was engaged to drummer Ricky Rocket. Kotzen was fired without hesitation, and in November 1993, Blues Saraceno stepped in to fill the role. Saraceno quickly got up to speed, finishing the band's world tour alongside them. In early 1994, Poison returned to the studio to work on what would be their 6th album, Crack a Smile. But just as the creative process was progressing, disaster struck. In May of that year, lead singer Bret Michaels was involved in a terrifying car accident, losing control of his Ferrari. He suffered a broken nose, ribs, jaw, and fingers, along with the loss of 4 teeth. The recovery was long and painful, forcing the band to put the album on hold. It wasn't until 1995 that Michaels was well enough to continue recording. Instead of releasing Crack a Smile, the label shifted focus to a greatest hits compilation. This collection wasn't just a simple rehash of old favorites. It also included 2 brand new tracks featuring Saraceno on guitar, Sexual Thing, and Lay Your Body Down. When it finally hit the shelves on November 26, 1996, the album became a runaway success, going on to achieve double platinum status and breathing new life into the band's career. By 1999, DeVille, the band's original guitarist, reunited with Michaels, Rocket, and bassist Bobby Dahl for a long-awaited reunion tour. The seeds of this reunion had been planted back 3 years back during the promotion of the Greatest Hits album. The tour, which was packed with energy and nostalgia, led to the release of Power to the People in 2000. DeVille had fully rejoined the group, and together they rekindled the magic on stage. In 2022, Poison once again stormed stadiums across the United States, joining forces with Def Leppard, Joan Jett, and Motley Crue for the Stadium Tour. This 36-date tour played to massive crowds in football stadiums, racking up $173.5 million in ticket sales. Throughout the years, even as Michaels balanced his time between Poison, his solo music projects, and appearances on reality shows like Rock of Love and Celebrity Apprentice, his loyalty to Poison never faded. The summer of 1999 marked another exciting chapter as the band embarked on the Greatest Hits reunion tour with the full original lineup. The show at Pine Knob Amphitheater near Detroit was a complete sellout. Around the same time, the band's story was featured on VH1's Behind the Music. Then, in March 2000, fans finally got their hands on Crack a Smile and more, which included Shut Up, Make Love, and the heartfelt ballad Be the One, along with rare outtakes and live tracks from their MTV Unplugged session. In 2001, the band dropped the web single Rockstar as a teaser for their next album. The following year, Hollyweird hit the scene, It marked their first full album of new material with DeVille back in the lineup. The album split opinions sharply. Some criticized its rough production and sound quality, while others, like AllMusic, praised it as one of their best efforts. Their cover of Squeezebox and the single Shooting Star kept the fans engaged. But things had begun to change. After wrapping up their Hollyweird World Tour, Poison released their second compilation album in 2003, Best of Ballads and Blues. Around the same time, Bret Michaels dropped his second solo album, Songs of Life, with standout tracks like Bittersweet and Rain, the latter dedicated to his daughter and backed by a music video. Not to be left out, Ricky Rocket stepped into the spotlight with his first solo effort, Glitter for Your Soul, which he released online after nearly 2 decades with Poison. In 2004, Poison landed a big gig as the opening act for Kiss on their Rock the Nation tour. While 2005 was a quieter year for the band, Michaels stayed active, diving into country rock with his solo album Freedom of Sound. His single All I Ever Needed, a duet with Jessica Andrews, even climbed up to number 45 on Billboard's Hot Country Songs chart, proving his versatility. The band roared back in 2006 to celebrate their 20th anniversary with the 20 Years of Rock tour, joined by Cinderella and Endeavor After. To mark the occasion, they released the Best of Poison, 20 Years of Rock, featuring their take on Grand Funk Railroad's We're an American Band. This new collection stormed the charts, debuting at number 17 with nearly 40,000 copies sold in its first week, bringing Poison back into the top 20 for the first time in over a decade. In early 2007, Poison asked their fans to help choose classic rock covers for their next album. The suggestions poured in, with names like Lynyrd Skynyrd, Sweet, and AC/DC. Poison turned these ideas into Poisoned, a covers album that hit shelves in June that year and climbed to number 32 on the Billboard 200. Their sold-out St. Louis show was recorded for a concert DVD and later broadcast as a Halloween special. The next year, Poison kept the energy high, playing at massive festivals in New Zealand and Sweden, alongside legends like Kiss, Ozzy Osbourne, and Alice Cooper. They teamed up with Sebastian Bach and Dokken for a summer tour and released Live, Raw, and Uncut, a concert DVD that included behind-the-scenes footage and a live album, quickly climbing Billboard's top music videos chart. In 2009, Poison made an unexpected splash at the Tony Awards, performing Nothing But a Good Time with the cast of Rock of Ages. However, the night took a bad turn when Michaels was struck by a falling set piece, leading to injuries that later became the focus of a lawsuit. A year later, Michaels faced a string of serious health scares. He underwent an emergency appendectomy and just days later suffered a life-threatening brain hemorrhage. Michaels credited the medical team at Barrow Neurological Institute for saving his life, and in 2012, the lawsuit from the Tony Awards incident was settled. In 2010, the story of Poison was captured in an unauthorized biography, A Shot of Poison, sharing behind-the-scenes tales from their wild journey. Michaels also released Custom Built, an album that featured Miley Cyrus on the catchy Nothing to Lose. Despite mixed reviews, the album soared to number 14 on the Billboard 200, marking his highest solo chart success. Poison kept the celebration alive in 2011 with the Glamageddon Tour alongside Motley Crue and New York Dolls. They also dropped Double Dose, Ultimate Hits, a double CD compilation, which found success in Canada. The following year, they toured with Def Leppard for the Rock of Ages tour, while Michaels continued his solo shows with the Get Your Rock On tour. By 2013, Michaels released Jammin' with Friends, which included fresh takes on Poison hits and solo tracks. Rocket, meanwhile, formed a new band called Devil City Angels in 2014. The rest of Poison, without Michaels, performed as the special guests in 2015, while Rocket faced a battle with oral cancer, putting group projects on hold. Poison wasn't finished yet. In 2017, they hit the road with Def Leppard and Tesla, followed by the Nothing But a Good Time tour in 2018 with Cheap Trick and Pop Evil. Michaels continued to share his story, announcing his autobiography, Unbroken, in 2019, later released as Bret Michaels, Autoscrapography, Volume 1 in 2020. Finally, in 2022, Poison joined Motley Crue and Def Leppard for the stadium tour across North America, with Joan Jett also on the bill. Despite the delay from the pandemic, the band delivered an electrifying show. Michaels, however, hinted that while a new album seemed unlikely, he still hoped they'd create one more hit that captured their glory days. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.